Sperlonga is a coastal town in Italy between Naples and Rome. The site is famous for the villa located there, first constructed during the Augustan age and later maybe owned and renovated by the Emperor Tiberius. The main attraction of the villa is the grotto, a natural seaside cave which provided an extravagant dining experience. The site also includes a piscine, a fish tank. Fish are notoriously difficult pets today, and even more so in antiquity. This inclusion shows the scale of wealth displayed here. Ancient authors have almost completely ignored Sperlonga, only focusing on the cave collapse in 26 CE. Tacitus writes, "They were eating in a cave at a villa, thence called Sperlonga. It was a native cave, and its mouth fell suddenly in, and buried under it some of the attendants. As to Sejanus, he covered the emperor's body with his own, exposing himself to the descending ruin." I find it notable Tacitus doesn't specify if this is Tiberius's own villa. The only other relatively clear reference to Sperlonga is by Suetonius, but I think he just copied Tacitus. Regardless, with the text we do have, and the archaeological record, the Grotto of Tiberius suggests a lot of fascinating things about Roman dining, power, and the character of an emperor. Rome favoured frugality, though as the Principate approached and progressed, living ostentatiously and eating lavishly became commonplace. Velleius Paterculus, who wrote in the reign of Tiberius, framed pursuit of pleasure as evidence of corruption following the fall of Carthage. The Sperlonga villa includes a dining room in a cave, an environment as flashy in antiquity as it is for us today. In a way, the grotto can serve as a microcosm of the relationship between Roman dining and the state's moral decline as the Principate continued. The first thing to discuss is who actually owned this place. The villa itself appears to be dated to the late Republic based on architectural design, and renovations were made either in the late Augustan period or early in Tiberius's reign. The statues within the grotto cannot be earlier than circa 30 BCE. A.F. Stewart suggests these passages by Suetonius imply Tiberius liked mullets, which the fish tanks at Sperlonga were equipped to hold. I can see the thought process, but I'm not convinced this story implies a pescatarian diet. The triclinium faces into the grotto, suggesting this is where the statues were intended to be viewed from and could further point to imperial sponsorship. If Tiberius is the owner of this villa, we have a new perspective of his character, which is useful in the constant debate over his status as reluctant emperor. I've only briefly mentioned the Sperlonga sculptures, but they are the main attraction. The statues are predominantly one type of marble, quarried from Decimium in modern-day Turkey. This suggests they were carved together, which could further imply Tiberius' sponsorship. The sculpture program depicts scenes from the Odyssey. Except maybe not. The statues in the cave include the blinding of Polyphemus, Scylla attacking Odysseus' ship, and, strangely, the theft of the Palladium and the retrieval of someone's body, maybe Achilles. These last two events don't occur in the Odyssey. Bernard Andre proposed the works were inspired by Ovid's Metamorphosis, though Anne Weiss claims this unlikely, as after being exiled, Ovid failed to obtain Tiberius' pardon. Weiss goes on to suggest Virgil as the literary model for the statues rather than Homer or Ovid. I doubt this debate will ever be settled, but here's what we know. The owner chose to decorate his dining room with sculptures of great heroes from some famous literary work, and it makes sense to ensure the dining room would be so lavish. It's a room basically designed for socializing, where guests talk politics and the hierarchy of power is fully on display. As Mary Beard writes, the emperor's world starts in the dining room. People have time to take in their surroundings while they talk and eat, and the owner has created an environment where people will connect him to legendary heroes without having to say anything about it himself. If Tiberius is in fact the owner, as speculated, we get a lot to dissect about his character. Suetonius said Tiberius often served leftovers to guests and only served half a pig to save on waste. So he didn't love wasting money on food, but he was evidently happy to splurge on his villas, allegedly. The cost of quarrying and transporting the marble from Turkey and then commissioning the artist is a great deal more expensive than a pig. That suggests the atmosphere of the dining room was more important to him than the food. And the food poisoning, and this could be cave-in. Actually, not only is this more evidence to never attend an imperial dinner party, but at least twice now people have died in a cave by the Cyclops Polyphemus. And caves occupy an interesting niche in antiquity. There's something divine about them, a sentiment openly acknowledged by ancient authors like Seneca. If any cave made by the deep hollowness of the rocks holds up a mountain, a cave not built with hands but hollowed out into such spaciousness by natural causes, your soul will be deeply moved by a certain intimation of the existence of God. Most of the villa's visitors probably thought this and made a subconscious link between the owner and the environment. But in case they didn't, maybe one could consider commissioning a group of massive marble sculptures depicting scenes from the famous hero King Odysseus fighting cave-dwelling monsters. Further, and here's my favourite part, a study conducted in 2022 found evidence these statues were intentionally placed inside the cave to align with the movement of the sun during the summer solstice. The scientists hypothesized any object held by Scylla could act as a gnomon, which could cast a shadow on the Polyphemus group. The Andromeda statue rescued from the sea nearby was proposed as a potential gnomon based on the height, shape, and links between Andromeda's myth and the Odyssey. Obviously, that needs further investigation before anything concrete can be determined, but the fact that this is even a theory is so cool and thematic. Polyphemus being blinded and the shadows literally casting him into darkness. Meanwhile, the grotto is essentially glowing from the sunset. We know the Romans considered astronomy in their architecture. The entrance to the Pantheon is lit by the sun to celebrate Rome's founding each year, and perhaps the arrival of the emperor on the day. I think this is more evidence pointing to this site being an imperial villa. Obviously, the emperor wasn't the only resourceful rich guy in Rome, but this is extravagant, like claiming you're the son of a god extravagant. Returning to Seneca for a second, in the same passage on caves, he states how some bodies of water are divine, and a man looking down from a higher plane, an emperor perhaps, can be considered divine. After the statement, he writes about the role of the sun. Everything he mentions is on display in this cave. It really feels like the wrecks of holiday villas, like the owner is trying to put to rest the standard aristocratic grottos of the Republic, because his is the best. Imagine being in this cave at sunset, and then looking over to see the emperor, the son of the deified Augustus. It almost wouldn't matter that you're being served yesterday's leftovers. Stewart states that grottos were a part of many rich Romans' gardens towards the end of the Republic, but Tiberius isn't just some rich Roman, he's the emperor. If Tiberius owns this villa, all this spectacle presents the princeps as divine, powerful, and wealthy. And even if he's not the owner, whenever he eats there, I'm sure people are still making similar connections, because he's the most powerful guy in a room filled with mystic connotations, except for that one time at the cave-in. And of all the rooms and sites in this villa, this degree of spectacle is focused on the dining room, because dinner with the emperor was a staged show. Ancient authors didn't place too much importance on Sperlonga. It seemed historically to have just been that place where the emperor nearly got squished and also gave Sejanus a platform to be really annoying for a while. What's so fascinating about it is what it reveals about power and its close association to the dinner table. This site combines wealth, architecture, art, myth, and natural history into a statement on power dining. We don't even know if an emperor ever owned this place, though Tiberius is the likeliest contender. It's easy to get caught up on the details we don't know and overlook the very interesting information presented to us. Whoever the owner was, they curated a space that elevated them into, as Seneca puts it, a different plane. Despite being a dining room, food mattered relatively little, at least in comparison to massive marble reenactments of famous literary works that align with the movement of celestial bodies. This site invites guests to view the owner, perhaps the emperor or a man with similar ambitions, as divine. And that's why Sperlonga is important. It shows how Romans turned dinner into a display of power.